Like I created like a water brand. I created like a music company, but it was my initial idea. So I had that opportunity to be creative as I wanted. And when people ask like, what is it? Sure. I told them what it was. I didn't tell them that it was specifically for anyone. So I didn't lie. But the thing is, those were the things that they had picked out of my portfolio that they had liked the most.
Welcome back to Have a Map, where we talk all things career. I am your host, Mamadou Njai, founder of Dim Events. Super excited to be here today, and looking forward to talk a little bit more about graphic design. We really haven't touched too much on graphic design career, so I think it'll be very interesting to learn a little bit about this. And the person that we have on today, I've actually been inspired by a lot of her work. And we didn't even know each other, and I just seen it, and a lot of my team has been inspired by it, so it's really cool to connect the dots on that. But before we get started, I want to introduce my co-host, Kiana. Kiana, say what's up to everyone. Introduce yourself.
What's up, everyone? I'm Kiana. I'm a recent grad from Loyola. I just graduated, majored in visual communications, which is graphic design. And I've been a graphic design intern at Dim Events for about 8 months now.
Kiana and I have a very interesting relationship. We always have like names for each other. My new name for her was Takashi99. And she just, every week she comes up with new names for me, and she just in front of all the interns just be playing me, but it's all good. Today we will be taking directions from Tahiti. Tahiti, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Tahiti Spears. I like to title myself as an art director, graphic designer, gunslinger, one shooter. Basically, I'm a person, I love to take people's verbals and turn them into visuals. I make sure that that's executed properly. I've been designing, I would have to say, for like 10 plus years. I think I started like early 19 or 20, and every year has gotten better. I specifically, went to undergrad at Western, then later went to Columbia for my master's. And everyone, you don't need to do that, but it will teach you so much by going to a master class. It's like a whole new level. Aside from that, I'll cut it short because I know there's going to be some questions in between, which I don't want to answer in my intro too quickly. But yes, that is me, Tahiti, in about 30 seconds, really quick.
Let's just get deep into it, right? I always like to hear this question, and this is really how we started off all the time, but what would you say is your impact on the world?
I would have to say my impact on the world, and I can say specifically due to just like the pandemic right now, I feel like I'm helping people tackle those fears that they had before this all started. Like, people are coming to me with like the most amazing ideas, and I feel like I'm helping them execute it, push it out. And when I think of people's like brands, they come to me just like, I need a logo, but I think I overwhelm or I either excite them because I start to think bigger than they even thought. I'm just like, oh, you just thought it was a website. I'm like, no, this could be like a pop-up. This could be apparel. We can get billboards. We need to start doing interviews. This can turn into a podcast. I'm like, there's so many levels to what people have is one singular idea. It can expand. I feel like that's my impact on the world. I feel like I constantly inspire by just sharing my ideas for the free, because I'm like, I just want to see you grow, rather if you are a stranger or you're my close friend.
That's beautiful. And I think that's something very unique, right? Because not everybody can see things that big, right? A lot of people don't even know the accessibility of some things and the possibilities of that. So just to kind of take it back, right? Where did that energy come from, right? Where does that visionary, that hustle, that drive really come from for you?
I would have to say I think it started when, I was first in college, and then I started like really networking. I saw like a ton of millennials within like my same age range just had all this ambition, and everyone was kind of getting out of that mindset, like they don't want to do like 9 to 5, they don't want to work under anyone. So all of that energy I was being around, it started to just like get pushed on me. And I saw how a lot of people were maneuvering. On top of that, you just have family as well that you see, move in a certain way. It's like I have corporate family, and then I have, maybe a little bit of like the hood family, but in combination, these are still two people that are hustling on two different platforms. And so I think my mind saw that. You see the streetwise, you see the corporate wise, and then just, you know, having pure conversations with people. That's when I just started to like create like a bank in my head. It's like, oh, I remember a friend just bought this like app up, or they bought up like this printing service, or they bought up like this, you know, place where you can maybe purchase fabric. And then, like I said, I created a bank of ideas. And then every time someone new comes to me, I either push those ideas on them, or I either try to like connect people with somebody that can benefit them.
So I want to go like a little bit into your history. So I'm wondering, like, what was your past like after high school? Like, did you go into college already, like, knowing you want to be a graphic designer? Like, that's your career, that's it? Or, like, did you have another major in mind?
Crazy thing is, as a child, like, I was always artistic. I can maybe, like, backtrack to, like, pure first grade. I was always a kid, like, doodling on someone's notebook, or everyone was like, draw tattoos on me, Tahiti. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, in high school, you know, you do like the yearbook, so you begin to dibble and dabble and to learn how to like use the computer. I was always good at like illustrating and drawing, but then I didn't realize till I got to college, I can take all of those things on paper and turn it into something digital that can be put on a bigger platform. Initially, when I went to college, I did not go for graphic design. I went for horticulture and agriculture, which is totally left, because I went to an agriculture school. So it was kind of the mindset, like when, you know, people of that career path kept visiting, they kept talking about like how much they make. And that was a faulty point that I feel like a lot of people should understand. Like, don't just listen to dollar signs. I had to backtrack myself to what my father always told me. He was like, whatever your talents are, turn them into a career. And I was like, let me get back to my roots. I was like, T, just what are you good at? What comes easy to you? And then that's when I had to go back to like my advisor and was like, I don't really see this girl playing in dirt. I like to get like, I don't want to get my nails dirty, but I was like, help me figure this out. Like, I know I'm artistic, but you know, sometimes when people hear artists, they think like, oh, struggling artist. I'm like, no, that won't be me. I had to figure this out. And then when I actually started to go to these classes, I'm like, these are the classes I enjoy going to. Like, I'm early, I'm there late. So I'm like, I think this might be my journey. So literally just I tackled that thing that was my talent and turned it into my career.
I think that's interesting, because when I first went to college, I initially went for interior design, and then I switched over to graphic design too. And I know like the transition for me, it wasn't like the smoothest. So I'm wondering like what the transition was like for you. Did you just merge right into it because you got back into your roots, or was it like a little difficult?
Actually, it was fairly simple because I made my major like communications, which is very broad. So I didn't start to take any of those, you know, specific classes that would target like the horticulture or the agriculture. So it was easy for me to just like transition, and I really hadn't got deep into it. And also, I figured it out in like my second semester of my first year, which some people, they figure it out like too late. But luckily for me, like you mentioned, it was smooth on my end. I'm sorry, it was a little difficult for you, but look at you now.
That's so true. One thing that's so interesting and fascinating, right? I think what you talked about is like that space of getting caught up in like the numbers of saying like, oh, you're gonna make this much, and now you've taken a whole different left turn when you should have been going right, and like trying to get back to that space, right? But since you figured it out early, what helped you to expound on that, right? For us, internships is a huge thing that we really believe in, and like learning how to create in a real world environment, right? So did you have any experience like that during college, or maybe after college as well?
So the college that I went to, my undergrad, you know, they basically, you know, they taught me the tools, they taught me Adobe, but that's when I graduated, and I was like, I don't think I have enough skills to hit the game hard running. That's when I was like, I have to go get my master's. And from there, I got like the full on experience. You had these people that, you know, designed in like Bauhaus. They were from Europe. They were like creative directors for like Chanel and Dior. So I started to get like, you know, this butterflies in my stomach, because I'm like, I'm giddy because I'm seeing and working under these people that have like these keen eye to design. And that was basically like an internship to me. On top of that, I still went and got my own internship. And I have to say, this is a big point for students nowadays. you have to sometimes just go knocking at a door and hoping that it will open, because the only thing it can do is just slam in your face. My dad brought me like a magazine, and he was like, baby girl, this magazine is like all you. And I'm like, yeah, this is like a really dope magazine. So I'm going to the back. I'm like, where's the art director? All right, cool, that's her. Email. I was like, I don't know if you consider having interns or anything like that, but I am very open to like working under you just to learn like a couple of skills. She was like, we don't hire interns, but you can come in. So I went in, and she was like, you can come back the next day. And now when I look at that magazine, they have a ton of interns. I was like, I started that for you guys. I pivoted that whole little company to be like, you guys need help, and that, you know, you're giving designers the opportunity to really figure out themselves and working in that whole like atmosphere. So I think internships are definitely needed. It teaches you a little bit of like that grind, and it just opens your mind to work a little bit harder, because you're on that cusp of trying to impress. And, you know, even when you get to the point of your career where you're making your own money, or someone specifically paying you, you're still working for that idea to impress. So internships are definitely needed.
I actually agree with that, because like what you said about them teaching you Adobe, like that was it. That was the basic. It was just Adobe. So a reason why I decided to come back for a second term, because like you, I felt like I wasn't 100% ready to go out into a field yet, because, you know, I could just use like the transform tool in Photoshop. Like it wasn't anything major yet. So I do feel like getting like an internship, second internship, whatever you have to do, will like help way more than just trying to jump right into a career. So I can definitely agree with that.
Oh no, yeah, like I said, internships are needed, and my best friend, YouTube University, will teach you so much.
YouTube is so huge. I literally built my whole company off of watching YouTube videos, and I was at my corporate job. So like YouTube, without you, I still watch YouTube, not as much because I don't have as much time, but like I miss those days of like studying and being able to just watch YouTube for like 2 hours at the office gig, and like really be like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Now really getting back into it and doing it, I think that's such a cool transition to see. But for you, what was that transition like, right? After you graduate with your master's, what was that next step for you? Was it, all right, I got my dream job, or was it a different direction that you went?
Like my last semester before graduating from my master's program, I thought I found my dream job. Looking at it now, I'm like, man, it wasn't. But it was me transitioning to a more upscale magazine company. Like, you know, editorial is still a part of graphic design. And it was crazy in my master's, you know, program. It was like, never do editorial. They'll just kill all of your, you know, initial skills that you learn. But I don't think that. I feel like it enhanced me and whatnot. But after that, I worked at this company, amazing company. It was weird because I was the only Black person in the room. So it was like everything I did, my detail had to be on point. I couldn't miss a beat. And it was like, I feel like everyone was looking over my shoulder, and due to like my coworkers, I can feel like they did something and I did it, but when I did it, it was wrong. Like, I felt like I had a ton of like, you know, revisions, and they were just like critiquing my work. And I learned from my master class, which I think a lot of students should learn, no matter what field you are in, like people are going to critique you, but make sure when people critique you that they're giving you something back in order to make a positive change. Because if people just give you feedback and there's no second statement that goes after that that's benefiting you, that's just like, you're leaving me in the dust, or either you're hating on me. I don't really know how to take that. But after I left the magazine company, I went, and I have to say where I work now. So I'm a 2-job person. I'm a 9 to 5, and then also I'm a 5 to 9. I started working at the American Bar Association, and from there, that team, they're a little bit older than me, but you can tell like the teamwork, they're invested. They love what they do. Granted, once again, I'm still only probably like the Black person, but they don't make me feel that way. They let me shine, and here you actually get to do like a ton of stuff. You get to do editorial, logos, advertising, animation, email marketing, all of that. And that was my problem, I think, in my last job. I was just getting tired of like magazine layouts. But the thing is, when I come back to the whole thing of like, what do I love designing the most? It's probably branding, and it is editorial. As soon as like a client pops up in like my DM or my email was like, I got a magazine I want to do, I'm like, come on, let's go, I'm ready. So it's still a soft place, but I found my dream job, but it's gonna be like that. Some of us are gonna hop right in it. Some of us it takes a little bit longer, but you'll initially get there.
A few things that I want to touch on in that space, right? Like talking about how you learn to take critiques, right? I think critiques are so important, right? Because, you know, school, and I might be off on this, but I think like when you go to school, right, you're creating something to get a good grade, right? But then when you go into the real world, right, you're creating something in some way to impress and get a good grade, but it's like, it has to be molded in a specific way, right? When you're in school, it's kind of just like your idea and whatever you think the shape of it, or whatever your professor thinks the shape of it is. So like with that transition, how did you kind of like not take a lot of that stuff personally, right? Was it hard to do that, or did it take some time to kind of move into that direction?
For me, it was never hard. I just knew, like, being a designer, you're always working for somebody. So I'm like, they're gonna have their opinion, you're gonna say what they like, or they're gonna come back and say that's not what I asked for. But that is a part of like me learning the career and growing. I had to start scaling down how to not waste my time, or, you know, not waste the client's time. That's when I was like, I need to create a brief. I feel like once people, you know, write down specifically what they want, what colors they want, what, you know, essence they want to get off, we can start taking away some of those critiques, some of those things that you say you didn't want, you did want. My thing is, when you lay things out, now, like I said, I love turning verbals into visuals. I'm literally taking everything you said verbally and making sure it's executed on, you know, the computer or on print. Like if you say you want something exciting, my mind is like, let me find colors that exude that. If you say you want something classy, let me find fonts that exude that. So critique is tough, but I feel like if you really get to the nitty gritty and have a conversation with somebody, you can totally eliminate that if you do it like before, you know, the project starts.
So I just heard you mention, like, you know, turning someone's verbal into something else. So I'm just wondering, like, what is your creative process behind that?
My creative process, like, I can talk about like my intake process. Like people hit me up and I'm just like, okay, before you want to call me or, you know, have a consultation, I'm just like, fill out the design brief. And I make sure everything that I do is like, you know, not taking up too much of your time, because time is, you know, very, very precious. So it's just like, I need to know those simple things. I need to know, like, what is your brand name? Like, what is the demographic? You know, what colors? How do you want people to feel? How do you, you know, speak about your brand to other people? Once you get those kind of like top three things, the demographic, how you want people to feel, what the brand name is, I feel like you're pretty much on the right track to execute it the way that they want to see it. And a lot of things, you know, people sometimes don't know exactly what they want. And that's our job as graphic designers. We're pretty much, you know, that space of being like their therapist. So we're a creative therapist to people. Verbals will definitely take you far, because I feel like if you don't ask anything other than like the name, you're not going to get anywhere. And then those people also need to know that you're not really helping me. We're going to waste a ton of time of me playing the guessing game. We both need to be sure before we start like the entire process.
I think that is like a two-way street where people try to figure stuff out, and like it just, time and efficiency is so important. But let's talk a little bit about your day-to-day, right? What does a day in the life look like for you? And maybe let's start pre-COVID, so the audience, so listeners can know, like, hey, this is what it used to be, and now this is what it is in reality. But what does that look like for you?
The funny thing is, I'm like, I never spoke about this out loud. Like, okay, before COVID, I think it was, you know, I'm not an early person, so this is a struggle for me more than likely. Just getting up at like 7 o'clock and being able to like drive my car to the bus and, drive my car to the train station, get on the train. You know, as soon as I get in, I'm one of those people, I have to delete unnecessary emails. That's my beginning start right there. It's just like clearing my head. My second thing that I do is I literally write down everything that needs to be done that day. And for me, it's so precious when I begin to see things just scratched off. It's like, oh, I'm actually killing it today. I'm getting just stuff off the board. From there, I grab what I can eat. I don't really eat when I'm in work mode. But once I get in, work mode, I really like to tackle a lot of stuff. I have a ton of like clever websites that I use. Like I said, when I think of colors, I use this website that is kind of like the Google of colors. So I love to go there when people are like, Tahiti, make it a little bit more exciting or, a little bit more deeper or something like that. So I'm like, I go and play with things like that. I love going to Behance and Pinterest and a ton of other like archive places just to like keep myself fresh, just to keep myself updated. I love to see like what other designers are using for new softwares. So I do a lot of research in the morning because I initially can't jump right into work because I'm not a morning person. So I'm like, my mind isn't there yet. So I'm like, I like to toy around. I like to run around, go make some tea, coffee. But I initially start work probably around 8, but I don't start working till like 11. Like for real. From there, like I said, it's me just getting everything off my plate, scratching those things off. And while I'm at my 9-to-5 job, which is so awesome, I weave in my personal work because, there is corporate, so you can only stay in one lane. And then like my side job lets me be as creative as I want to. So my creative director knows, he's like, I know you're in here doing other stuff. And my thing is like, he likes to look at my other work. So it's great to have a person like that on your side that's like, I'm not gonna knock, you growing at all. He's like, I want to see you grow. Like he loves, I feel like if he could duplicate me, he would. So that's amazing. Then when I'm leaving work, I feel like it is great for people to have some type of self-care. I love like going to the gym, if it's even for like 30 minutes or something like that, then coming home, cooking me something just to fuel my body back with energy. And before COVID, literally when I left work, I did no more work. But now I kind of have the new process, still not an early person. I probably get up around 10, still do my same routine of deleting my emails, writing down what I need to get done today. But during COVID, I find myself just working later, which I'm totally fine with because I'm really in tune. I feel like once I get in the mode, I'm just like, I can't wait to send the client. It's like, I even tell some clients, I'm like, I wanted to send you it at 2 a.m., but that's not professional. So I'm just like, wait. So designing is like my real happy place. Like it doesn't feel like work. It just like doesn't stress me out. It's like my woosah, honestly. And then like on the weekends, purely, I do nothing. And I think a lot of people in their careers need to take that personal time out. Like on the weekends, I'm like, you guys can email me, but trust me, I'm not going to email you back. You can text me like, Tahiti, I need this. I already told you in my, brief, in that invoice, I told you I work from Monday to Friday. I do not work on the 2 S days. I do not work on Saturday. I do not work on Sunday. That is for family, friends, getting lit. Don't call me. So that's my day to day.
That's so
versus Corona and pre-Corona.
Right. And I thought that's one of the tougher things with Corona, right? Like you're in your space, like that one space all day. So like someone when we were on the podcast was saying like your Monday and your Saturday are like 10 feet apart, right? Your office and your like free space are 10 feet apart. And if you don't have an office, then it's all in the same area. So how do you designate that? And one thing I always come back to is like during COVID, it's not a time, it's not a sprint of endurance and saying like, hey, I can get all these things done during COVID. It's a time of reflection, I think, right? And a time to really look at your life and say, am I satisfied? Am I happy with my schedule? If not, I can adjust it, right? I can play around with things because this is the only time you really gonna have where you can sit in the house for this long and not have to go out, right? So for us, what is, and you touched on it a little bit, but self-care, right? What does self-care look like to you, right? Because I know it's a journey. It's not a, oh, this is self-care and that's it. It takes time. It builds up to something. So what was your self-care journey like?
I mean, I started to realize in the beginning of my career, like I had to weave out a lot of things that were becoming like stressful to me. Like I said, that's when I had to create a design brief because that eliminates just, constant back and forth. I had to create, quick online payments so I wouldn't have to worry about that. I created different platforms of payment so people couldn't deny me. I created, initial things that would be added on so people wouldn't waste my time, like applying revision fees, applying late fees. I created this bubble where I was saving myself time and relaxing my mind from not being overwhelmed. And then with that, I started to push myself into the idea of like, Tahiti, you work so hard. Sometimes, you know, during the week, I'll literally stay in my office till like 10 o'clock, and like the cleaning lady knows me. Like, she even brought me a snack. So I was like, okay, you are pushing yourself. How about you remove yourself a little bit just for personal time? And that's when I went into that whole thing of like, the weekends are mine. And I think I started that probably like 4 years ago. So I really adore that. And the fact is that I'm so straightforward with it with my clients that they do respect it. They like, well, we know you're not going to get back with us. So I'm like, long as you know, and long as I know that that's going to happen, we're all good here. But now with like the Corona, my self-care, it's still initially the same. I don't do the weekends, but I love waking up in the morning and going on a bike ride or going to take a run. Or if I can't make it in the morning, I'll make sure that, you know, I do it later in the day. Since like living in Chicago, I live right by the lake. Just like the water and just like the scenery is just like pure vibes of like energy. Granted, there's no sage around, but it's just like, let me fold my legs and embrace this moment and this beautifulness that some creature has created for me to enjoy.
So I feel like that's like a great way to just create great projects. So now I'm wondering, like, can you tell us a little about any current projects you're working on, or like what's your favorite project that you've done so far?
Current projects, I'm personally working on something that I created for my company. Like while during Corona, I rebranded myself. Because I kept saying, I was like, Tahiti, you need to rebrand yourself. Because like I branded myself like in college. So I redid that. And now I'm trying to create this personal book where it allows people to really pinpoint their brand name and tagline. It's kind of like a playbook for design. It's you basically answering all your own questions in order to create what your name would be. It's like me asking like, what, you know, specific lane are you in? Are you in interior, fashion, whatever? Like, how do you, you know, express yourself to just a common stranger in pure conversation? When you take those words, that becomes your tagline. When you use those expressions, those becomes your colors. And when you start to combine or, you know, move around letters or use synonyms or, you know, use the definition version of that word, you start to create your brand name. So now you're tying everything together, which everything becomes aligned. So I'm really excited to release that. I've been kind of lagging on it, but I've had a friend play around with it and it works. And you can initially finish something like this in like one day because all of it just comes out so easy, because it's just like you having a pure conversation with a pure blank piece of paper, and now you're just writing it all down. One of my favorite things I'm probably working on, or actually I would say it's done. It was a book. It's Gumbo book, which I wish, do you mind if I walk off and get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so funny thing is I haven't opened up this one. And this is an amazing book. Like, it is a ton of Black artists all around the world. When I mean all around the world, just not America, like Nigeria, Paris, all of that. It is just a book like Gumbo. It's just a ton of different people in here just expressing their artistry. And when I say like the photos in this is amazing, and I did the entire layout, it is literally Black beauty, illustration, content. It is just, oh my God, flawless. And I love it. I love it. So this is the baby that I am proud of. And look at that embossing. Can't get that nowhere. Where the camera at? There it is.
Like, how long did that project take you?
This took, I want to say like 3 months. But the team that I work with, they were like so prepared. They had already got like a ton of submissions. They had everything like already in their Dropbox and Trello. And they were just balls out ready. And this is a project that they had in their hands for probably like 2 to 3 years. So they were ready to get it out. Like, content was perfect. There was no grammar errors. I just literally had to take the images and content that they gave me and work my magic. And like I said, I love when people give me freedom. And they saw like a couple of pieces of my work on like social media, and they interviewed a ton of people. And he was just like, when you came into the room, it felt like you were already a part of the team. Like you easily adapted. You just like conversed with us like naturally. You weren't really trying to impress us. You were just being your authentic self. And he was like, that's what that book is about. And he was like, that's when you captivated us. And I was like, I'm so ready, because I told you, when people bring me editorial stuff, I do jump on it because I still love it.
Still like a huge passion for you, a huge passion project that you love. You talked a lot about people seeing your work out there, right? What, like with your business, right? Because I know there's some people who are, you know, in that graphic design space and maybe want to get started and like getting some clients on the side, right? What did that journey look like for you? Like you mentioned social media a lot, so I assume a lot of your work is on like Instagram page or something of that nature.
Yeah, it started for me, like I said, literally just like networking and going to events within my age range, because I feel like a ton of people have amazing ideas out. And then it's crazy to say, a lot of people don't know where to find like a graphic designer or a good one. There's a ton of them. Hard to find a good one. So I just literally put myself on a pedestal and was like, I'm here. And, you know, in the beginning, it's like I lowballed myself just to say like I didn't waste your time or anything like that. But as I start working more, people are like, Shorty's really good. And then I started looking at what I was charging. I was like, I am good. Let me up my, you know, my payments. But social media is definitely the best platform. I think I made my Instagram. I didn't make my Instagram early. Like I think it's probably like 5 years old, which I started designing, like I said, I'm like 10 years in the game. So once I realized that Instagram has, all, as we all know, start adding all of these little elements where it's making it easier for people to like contact you and even for you to like boost your ads. But social media is the new business card, basically. And I love to like put my content out there. I think the difference for me as a designer, I love to show people like my process. Like I'm okay with sharing my skills. I'm okay with sharing how I maneuver or how I created like a logo or how I created like a post or something like that. So I think that's what makes people, you know, a little bit drawn to me. And I'm okay with, you know, sharing all of my concepts. People are like, you literally post everything. I'm like, even if it's like a rough draft, I just want you guys to see, you know, the process. I love to like engage with people, like which one would you pick? But networking and social media will be your best friend. And literally sometimes just throwing yourself out as a freebie for like maybe once or twice out of the year, because sometimes those freebies come back to you like a boomerang.
How did you get comfortable and like confident with networking and like sharing yourself on social media? Because I know last week I was bribed by Mo to make an Instagram page. I was forced, you know, he forced my hand. So I'm just wondering, like, how did you even gain the confidence to initially put yourself out there? Because I'm extremely late to Instagram. Like I have no knowledge behind it. So like, how did you get started with that?
Instagram, I basically got started because I really started having just like a bank of, you know, logo work and branding work. And I was just like, I feel like people need to see this. You know, I started to notice that there was no one else with like, in my mind, my clean aesthetic. Like you have all these gaudy, over chunky things. And I'm just like, I need to show the world what I'm made of, because this is my talent. This is my career. Like I said, I had my 9-to-5 job, but my mindset, I always want more. Like I said, I think bigger and grander for my clients. I need to start thinking that way for myself. And that's literally what pushed me to be like, put yourself a website out, platform, social media. I don't like Facebook. Everyone's like, get one, but at least put yourself out on one of those platforms.
Well, we literally just had this conversation. Literally.
Once you start playing with it, you're going to start loving it. Like I said, just sometimes show your process, show work you've done.
I think that's a good step. Do you have any other advice that you would offer to like young up and coming graphic designers on how to get started, how to get their foot in the door, like how to prepare for maybe some interviews?
Sometimes if you find anything that you like that was created, go to the source, go to the art director, be willing to just find their email, ask them would they be willing to let you shadow them, let you be an intern. You have to open your own mouth in order to get things back. And I feel like people have that fear, but the only thing is, the worst thing they can say to you is no. And that's not going to hurt your feelings because there's a ton of other opportunities and a ton of opportunities that are going to say yes to you. So in interviews, always be your pure self. Always show that, you know, you have something a little bit different. As far as getting yourself out there, be willing to always be open-minded because this world is so ever-changing. You have to stay updated. Always do your research. Always be on, you know, all of the design websites. See what your competitors are doing. And it's like a quote I can't remember, but like great artists steal. So I look at other people's art and I'm like, my professor told me this. He was like, if you could just take another artist's work and change about 50%, it's yours. And it will save you so much time. Really, really well. So take those things like to heart, like open your own doors, steal from other artists in the good way, and just be yourself. Like there's something about you that other people want. We're all a walking brand and product.
That was perfect advice. Perfect advice. I feel like that's the one thing where, you know, there's not always a disconnect, but it's like, there's nothing wrong to draw inspiration from stuff, right? It cuts back on timing and it helps you to understand what's out there, right? And I think my last question for you would be, what about portfolios, right? I know a lot of students are trying to build up their portfolio, especially during this time right now, right? A lot of jobs might not be hiring, might be hiring. It looks like graphic design is even becoming an even larger market because there's so many different graphics that are out there on social, and lots of companies are open to working with so many different freelancers or people who work at the company or hiring people on. So what advice would you give about people who are, especially college students or those who aren't in the college realm, who are looking to beef up their portfolio? What should be in their portfolio?
Your portfolio should have specific things. Like it should have branding, it should have packaging, it should have, billboards, advertising, email marketing. Literally try to tackle as many different tabs as if it was a website, because they want to see versatility. Granted, in their description it might just say, oh, we're just hiring for someone to do packaging. But once they see you can do all these other different things, they'll be more, prone to be like, maybe that's the one for us. And even if you did not have that product like actually created or, printed, be willing to render it out to show them what the real can look like. I often do that when I just create branding for clients. I'm like, a flat logo does nothing for anyone. But when you see it on like a shirt, a button, a billboard, a car, they're just like, ooh, and ah, like I didn't even expect it to look that good on all these different things. So I feel like that's a big part of a portfolio that a lot of students fall flat on. They just give you just like the renderings of something, but they don't show you what the real dream is supposed to look like or what it's going to look like in reality. Push your portfolio a little bit more. You got to stand out from all of your competitors because, like I said, there's a ton of graphic designers. There's only like a small amount of like really, really, really good ones. And you're one of those good ones. So put all of your best ideas. And I even have to say, in my portfolio, when I first started, a lot of my portfolio was just ideas that I had on my own. It wasn't for a client or anything like that. Like I created like a water brand. I created like a music company, but it was my initial idea. So I had that opportunity to be creative as I wanted. And when people ask like, what is it? Sure. I told them what it was. I didn't tell them that it was specifically for anyone. So I didn't lie. But the thing is, those were the things that they had picked out of my portfolio that they had liked the most.
Speaking of portfolios, like you said, you put your best work in there. So when I would be like talking to one of my past mentors, who was my professor, she would go to these meetings where like interviewers would say, okay, we want to see something that's not in your portfolio. So I'm wondering, what should you bring to show them that's not in there? Like maybe like a process book or like maybe a real life mock-up that you made with like some transfer paper, or like what exactly should you show them to really wow them? Because I thought if it's your best, it should be in your portfolio.
You should actually show them something tangible. I do admit that like when I was first going on my jobs, I did sometimes take money out of my own pocket and I would actually print out the products just so people can see it. Like even as small as like labels, like I said, that water brand that I made up, I literally bought a bottle, bought like the label for it, and I presented it. When I create magazines, I bring that like printing isn't that much if you just go to Staples. People do love to feel stuff and see that it was something real that people can actually enjoy or purchase or, you know, be a table piece within their house. So I wouldn't say like go crazy and print out everything and whatnot, but bring at least maybe like 2 tangible things. And once again, like I said, render things out so they can see it expanded. So they'll think like, oh, maybe she just shot it in a professional, you know, photo shoot or something like that. So I think those 2 can benefit you, but you don't need to do too much if you're already bringing your best. And I feel like the best thing you have is your voice to explain your process and why you did what you did.
Love that energy. And Tahiti, what are you listening to right now? What are you listening to maybe when you're working or you're chilling? What are you listening to?
I have like 3 things that I listen to, and I feel like they're all on like a different spectrum. I listen to Jay-Z's 444 still, because I just love how much insight he was giving like the world on like legacy, profit, you know, financials and all of that. And then on top of there's this new artist, Flo Millie. I feel like all of my friends send me her lyrics because they're like, she's just like your inner beast of like how you just like go hard a little bit. And then my funny moment, I am the biggest Bob's Burger fan. So he has a spot, or the cartoon has a Spotify, and I know all the songs.
Bob's Burgers have amazing songs, by the way.
Amazing. When you said Lion King 2, I was like, wait, I do listen to Bob's Burgers.
Yep.
What music have you been listening to?
Well, I'm always listening to Beyonce, but okay, the second was a little embarrassing. I've been listening to the Lion King 2 soundtrack because it didn't have to go that hard. So I've been listening to it on Spotify.
That's interesting. I gotta add that to my playlist. Who's on the Lion King 2 soundtrack?
I don't know their name specifically, but look, it's crazy.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out. I like that though. That's unique. I've never heard that on here. That's really good. Wow. I got 2 more things I gotta listen to. For me, I'm trying to think. I've been listening to Burna Boy's new album, which has been dope. And I've had a lot of Freddie Gibbs on the back end of my playlist, but
Nice.
a lot of Freddie Gibbs. So what we like to do at the end of our internship is we always give like a virtual round of applause. So we want to give you a virtual round of applause and thank you so much for being on Have a Map. My last thing, where can people find you? If you want to point somewhere, we'll put it in post-production, but where can people find you? If they have questions, where can they reach out to you at? And yeah.
Yeah, you can always reach out to me. I am literally a person that has probably every Mac device literally sitting right in front of me. So I never miss an email. So I'm pretty efficient on that. But you can more than likely always find me on Instagram at 0514design. And I love answering students or just new designers questions. Like I literally had a phone call with some designer I found on Instagram. I literally shouted her out. I was like, I think you're dope if no one else does. And I feel like that boosted her ego. And she was like, can I have like a 30-minute call with you? I was like, I usually charge for that, but I'm gonna let you, sit here and like pick my brain. And I gave her all the advice that she needs. So you can also email me at 0514.design.
Perfect. And I just want to thank all the listeners for listening. Kiana, you did a great job. I'm going to give you a round of applause as well. You always come with those fire questions. Anything you would like to leave us with, Kiana, before we jump off?
I just want to thank Tahiti for giving us some advice. I'll definitely add you on Instagram. And I would advise everyone to listen to the Lion King 2 soundtrack because it's fire. And I'll leave it with that.
Drop the mic.
Drop the mic. And thank y'all for listening to Have a Map, where we talk all things career. Skirt. Yeah.